Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another video, and thank you for being here. So this week brings two features to mid-September that are very indicative of fresh starts and new beginnings, and that feeling of things are turning around, particularly after a pretty dense retrograde season. So those two features are a new moon, which happens in Virgo at 21 degrees. That happens on the 14th or the 15th, depending on your time zone. And we also see Mercury, who is the ruler of this new moon, slows right down from the 14th and eventually stations direct around the 15th, 16th, again, depending on your time zone. So this week and the middle of September does bring that really beautiful resetting quality that can help you push past through any recent uncertainty or confusion. So while on paper it looks really great, there is still this sense of things still going to take a little bit of time for that real clarity to come through. But this week does bring that idea of, when you're tinkering with a problem for a little while, just when you're about to tear your hair out and throw your hands up in the air and give up, a sudden piece of news or a flash of insight comes your way, and it's enough to help you move forward, take another step towards reaching a decision or an outcome of some kind. So the new moon plus Mercury direct will help you get back to some form of regular programming, particularly in an area of life or a topic where there has been a lack of clarity, confusion, or where there's been sort of general chaos and upheaval in your life, particularly since late August. So this week looks great for finding those devil in the details and then moving on from that position. So this might involve some logistics, some planning, organizing things, getting things finalized or completed, all those kind of Virgo keywords, especially if there's been delays, crossed wires, misunderstandings, or things just generally taking longer than they otherwise would normally do so, or what you expected they would. So the new moon is really ideal, as it is each month, for a new start and new beginnings. So when you're looking at your birth chart and those 12 houses, throughout the course of a year, you're going to get a new moon in each house. So Virgo is very active this week. So a lot of the information that I share is going to be sort of general in nature, but of course you can personalize that to what your Virgo house topic is. So this new moon in Virgo is really ideal for fresh starts and new beginnings, as most new moons are. New moons are often described as planting a seed, that new seed of intention, of new beginnings and fresh starts. So this month might be about monthly intentions or goals around that particular Virgo house topic for you. So this new moon, yes, it's a seed that's going to be, pushed into that dirt. But if you are familiar with gardening at all, some seeds take a little bit longer to germinate than others. A capsicum, for instance, or if you are in the US, you would call those peppers. So this seed, this new moon, is going to take a little bit longer to germinate, to grow legs, so to speak, and get things moving again. So this lunation has two features to it, actually, that do suggest that this seed this month is a bit more like a capsicum or a pepper than perhaps something that just takes a couple of days to germinate, like a lettuce, for instance. So this ruler of, so there's these two things. It's the ruler of the new moon, which is Mercury in Virgo, is at a standstill and moving direct. And the second feature is that the lunation at 21 degrees of Virgo opposes Neptune at 26 Pisces. So we can take a look at that now. I'll share the screen so you can get a feel for what this looks like. So this new moon is set for my own location, which is Brisbane in Australia. And we see the new moon here at 21 Virgo. and it is staring down the barrel of Neptune in Pisces. So the opposition. There's also a sneaky trine to Uranus, and I will touch on that in this video a little bit. But I do, in my humble opinion, think it's the Neptunian quality that's probably going to be a little bit more felt. And then, of course, the other key feature is the ruler of the lunation. So a key to looking at new moons is what is the condition or the situation that involves the planet that rules that lunation. So in this case, it's Mercury in Virgo, and it's stationing. So you can see that red S there. It's in the process of changing direction. The good news with Mercury in this case that it's not stationing retrograde, it's stationing direct. So with those sort of Virgo and details out of the way, a Virgo new moon is a fresh start that can help you move forward with planning, with organizing, or even streamlining, decluttering, and detoxifying. Virgo as a sign can suggest some ideas around, if I just do this or that, then that, then this, or if I just do, if I just do this and that, then that and this will be okay. So it's a real kind of actionable doing kind of sign. If I just figure out this problem, then everything will fall into place. Or if I just do better, apply myself more, do more, or work harder, then it will all work out. Now, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is in its own domicile and exaltation. And it's also a cerebral planet in a cerebral sign. So it's very much about a thinking, churning, new ideas, solving problems. Virgo is also interesting because it's earth. It's an earth element. So this is very much about reconnecting with the body at the same time. And so when you're in a state of stress, anxiety, worrying about the future, all those mercurial type of things, it's really easy to disconnect from the body and lack that groundedness that can help you feel into what the solution to a problem might be. I'm yet to ever find a time in my life, in any of my clients or students' lives, or anyone that I know, that has solved a problem from worrying about it. I've seen some things circulating on social media that sort of says, if you worry about something and it happens, well, you figure it out then. But if you worry about something and it does happen, then you've worried about it twice. So that might be something, if you are finding yourself with the Mercury retrograde that's currently in play, things are moving slowly, you're stressed, you're worried about problems. Worrying generally is not going to solve that problem. Of course, it's easier said than done. So this is a clue that this new moon is very much about getting back into balance with the mind and the body at the same time, finding that source of reconnection, finding alignment with your thoughts and ideas, as well as your feelings. This might be about taking in a really deep breath and letting it out. And where in your body are you feeling that tension and stress? And just letting that mind, literally kind of come back down to earth a little bit. So there's also a stripped back or paring back quality to the new moon in Virgo. That really, this is one thing I really do love about Virgo, is the essence of less is more. When you can strip back or pare back or, get to the details of things, it then becomes less overwhelming. It's easier to diffuse those thoughts and those ideas that might be, circling around in your mind, causing that stress and worry. Like, they say, how do you eat an elephant? It's just one bite at a time, one step at a time, rather than the whole overwhelming concept of, the big picture kind of thing. But this new moon does have that opposition to Neptune. So the overwhelm, the uncertainty, the fatigue is a very real feature of this week. So Neptune is a planet that does have a diffusing quality to it. It's often associated with the lack of clarity, a lack of focus, not being able to concentrate, fatigue, and tiredness. You might find yourself in a position where choices and decisions do need to be made. Sometimes despite our feelings, the facts of a situation can't be ignored neither, but you still aren't sure of what an outcome or the solution might be. Sometimes we do still have to sign off on things or say yes to things or make moves, whether we can have that luxury or that time or that space to feel into it. Then there's other situations where we're so caught up in our feelings or our overwhelm that it is kind of hard to see the forest for the trees. So there is a real sense of this isn't your average Virgo moon where it is just about facts, data, clarity, and moving from that space. So there is that potential that for some of you, you might be feeling fearful of those outcomes that are unquantifiable or incalculatable. Is that even a word? Incalculable or even unknown. Okay. So if you are Virgo inclined or data inclined, that unknown and uncertainty can be totally overwhelming and fear-inducing. So the next 2-week period until we have our full moon in Aries, this might be, which happens at the end of the month. So this 2 weeks might be a period of time where it's about trusting that you don't actually need to have every T crossed, every I dotted in order to make a choice. Sometimes you have to wing it a little bit, and that's the way that you move forward. And this is where I see, in many different situations and settings where people do really get confused. They kind of, when it comes to making choices, they want to kind of major in the minors, or they do what I like to call Steve Jobs it. I often use this analogy, and it was a speech that was quite famous from Steve Jobs. I think he made it to some Stanford graduates or something like that. And he was just basically talking about the trajectory of his career. And he said, for a long time in my career, he spent time trying to connect the dots moving forward. But really, it is in hindsight where you can, make those connections. So with this new moon, there is a potentiality of that paralysis analysis, which can be a very Virgo thing. So overdoing that is a real possibility now. And with Neptune kind of staring down the barrel of this lunation, you're really being asked to trust in the possibilities, maybe the magic, and the possibilities of the unknown and the unquantifiable. What a boring world it would be if we knew the answers to everything, right? So in some ways, this lunation might be about hedging your bets against the things that you know to be true or to be sure about, but also leaving some wiggle room or things to be open-ended in some areas where it may just be too big or too unfathomable or too overwhelming to tackle right now. So there's an idea, just take a step, then another, and then another, and things often have a way of figuring themselves out. So sometimes when we are in these phases of feeling lost or uncertain, that's the challenge of a Neptune influence. And this is going to be particularly important, even if this lunation doesn't hit anything specific in your own natal chart. If you have planets or points, say between, let's say 24, 28 degrees of the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, you'll already be experiencing these Neptunian influences firsthand, where you're being invited to kind of go with the flow, but where do you define those lines between going with the flow and also making really conscious choices, or not feeling overwhelmed or bombarded by fatigue or confusion? Like, I find Neptune transits are really difficult because you can't, it's like trying to grasp sand. You can't, it just falls through your fingers, and it's really hard to sort of point your finger at a problem and go, that's the thing, when that thing is nebulous and it can't be seen, and it's a planet just full of gas. It's not, doesn't speak to tangible qualities, but it does speak very much to the idea of feelings. And so this is the tension with the Virgo new moon that's very data driven and factual, opposing Neptune that's all about feelings and possibilities and uncertainties, and trying to find the sweet spot between the known and the measurable and the trackable versus the unknown. So this might be a lunation where you're invited to really trust your feelings, at least in this next couple of weeks, even if you have to feel that deep fatigue, where your bones are tired, you're tired of making choices, or you're tired of having to go back over things, or things that have been drawn out for long enough, where you feel overwhelmed, or like you're about to throw your hands up in the air and even wonder what's the point. This Virgo new moon can help you weigh those things up. What are the pros and the cons of the situation that you might be dealing with, and then hedging those bets accordingly. It might be, okay, well, these are the non-negotiables that keep me feeling safe, solid, and grounded, Virgo. And then the rest of the stuff, I'm just going to kind of, Steve Jobs that and figure that out as I go, and look back in hindsight and go, oh yeah, that thing led to that thing, that led to that thing. So it is, okay, what's going to keep you maybe feeling safe and certain? What can you maybe control or measure or monitor, and sort of maybe surrender or let go to the things that you can't. So in my opinion, the Neptune transit, maybe it's biased because of what's happening in my own chat. Well, actually, I kind of got a nice dose of both, but the Neptune transit's probably going to be more felt because, generally speaking, in all astrology, the opposition is a stronger aspect because it really highlights tension points. But that trine to Uranus is also something not to be ignored. So this might suggest that a sudden yet welcome turn of events or willingness to try something new, unique, or different might just be enough to get stuck out of a rut, especially if you're chasing your tail with indecision or uncertainty. Then it might be, then do the less predictable or unpredictable thing. Okay, like taking a step, it makes it easier to gain some kind of momentum from taking a step, giving something a go, taking a chance, than it does trying to figure it all out when you're in a limbo or in a position of being stationary. And again, Mercury stations under this lunation. So, it's the ruler of the new moon. And as this lunation starts to move forward, so will Mercury. So as I said, on paper, this lunation looks really quite dandy. But when you dig into it, things are moving forward. Things are moving upwards, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time for the moon to gain a little bit more light, a little bit more momentum, come out of that dark new moon phase, and gain a little bit of clarity and traction until it gets to that bright full moon in Aries. And then, of course, Mercury stationing at 8 Virgo, it's not going to get off that station degree until around the 21st, the 22nd, or the equinox. And then things will still take a little bit of time to fully reveal themselves. So while things are definitely getting better, I wouldn't expect clarity or certainty anytime soon. So while the new moon ruler, Mercury stationing, certainly looks like a turnaround point. It's certainly an improvement. We're definitely better off seeing Mercury station direct as opposed to stationing retrograde. This is still a period, this 2 weeks, of recovery from the things that were set in motion at the end of August. So you might start to get some fresh perspective, maybe some new ideas or new solutions on old problems. So this week, avoid thinking that everything's going to instantly get better, because we've got a new moon and a station direct. It's still going to take a little bit of time. So let yourself off the hook if you're feeling the stress of having to make a decision, having to make a choice. It's frustrating, I know, but sometimes things have a way of revealing themselves when that phase, that fog of Neptune starts to become less of an influence. You will see those details, you'll see those facts, those data points that you couldn't even see if you were trying to see them now. So it is about patience. It's a little bit about surrender, letting go, and also giving yourself peace. Peace of mind is so important in times of uncertainty, confusion, or lack of clarity. So if you are feeling that stress or that anxiety, sometimes it's just, letting it go. It's cliche as it is. It might just be, if you can, at some point this week. I did this on the weekend. I just really felt I had to go to the beach. So I took my son and we drove down to Burleigh, which is on the Gold Coast. And if you know Queensland, you'll know how lovely it is there. And it was the most perfect reset that I needed. I'll probably try and do it again this weekend, but it just helped, those negative ions, the salty water, just helped to really reset, refocus, reground, and also replenish. So for some of you, it might be going for a walk, getting back into nature, having some screen-free time or less social media time. So this week is definitely about avoiding that things are going to all, come clear overnight, because I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. But what I really do like, though, is that Mercury is stationing direct in domicile and exaltation and in the same sign as the moon. Now, this reminds me of a concept that one of my early mentors, early in my studies, John Frawley, this was more associated with natal charts, that if you have the moon and Mercury in the same sign in your natal chart, it is indicative of an organized mind, that perhaps the thoughts and the feelings or the intuition and the ideas are in alignment. And so, I know if I think about my own life, and I'm sure it's true for you too, where those times where your intuition guided you in one direction, but you relied on your mercurial functions too much, but your gut instinct was telling you something else. And so this new moon with Mercury in very good condition in terms of rulership and domicile, and in that recovery, with the moon reanimated, renewed, and refreshed, also in Virgo, can really help you get organized with your feelings, with your thoughts, and them coming into alignment. So yes, this is a Virgo moon. Yes, it's a Mercury ruled lunation, but don't discount your feelings either. Even if your intuition is a little bit incongruent with what the logical choice might be or what you might do in a normal situation. So this week, think about how you think and feel, and that they're likely to get back on the same page now. This may not result in the most perfect outcome that you wanted, but it might be just enough to get you out of a place of chaos, confusion, or uncertainty. So I'd love to know in the comments below, how are you feeling this week? September's been a chewy month thus far. So I do feel that this new moon is definitely a turning point, but it's a turning point that's going to be an evolving process. So I'd love to know how it's experiencing for you. And of course, I'd just like to give a brief shout out, speaking of lunations and turning points around the equinox, is that that's when I'll be launching the Introduction to Planetary Magic course. And that is a free course inside of my Golden Circle membership. So if you'd like an introduction to working with the planets, getting more enchantment, better life, and better astrology through engaging with the planets, then I would love to invite you inside the circle. There's so much there. In the monthly updates, the community, the connection, and of course, these additional membership offerings that are all a part of your very inexpensive membership. So all the details are in the link below. And one other brief announcement is that I've had a few shifts in my availabilities in my calendar, and that's also opened up extra time for readings. So that has also reduced my wait time. So if you are looking for more personalized transits, progressions, perfections, or year ahead stuff, or just a good natal reading, those are available via my website as well. So I'd love to wish you a happy new moon, and leave me some comments below. I'll hope to get back to you real soon. Okay, until next time, I hope you have a great week.